Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is a powerful book that teaches negotiation skills based on real-world experiences. Chris Voss, a former FBI hostage negotiator, shares techniques he used to resolve life-or-death situations and shows how these strategies can work in everyday life. The book challenges the traditional negotiation idea of compromise, arguing that splitting the difference often leads to weak results. Instead, Voss focuses on emotional intelligence, active listening, and tactical empathy to build trust and influence others. He blends engaging stories with practical advice, making it clear that negotiation is not just about money or business, but also about relationships and communication. Whether you're closing a business deal, asking for a raise, or navigating personal relationships, Voss's methods offer effective tools to get better outcomes. Chapter 1. The New Rules: How to Become the Smartest Person in Any Room. Chris Voss challenges the traditional negotiation belief that logic and reason are the best tools for success. He argues that emotions play a much bigger role in decision-making than most people realize. To be a successful negotiator, you need to understand and influence emotions through tactical empathy, actively listening and making the other person feel understood. Voss explains that negotiation is not about winning or losing, but about connecting and guiding conversations. He shares a real story about a bank robbery in Brooklyn where armed robbers held hostages. Instead of using force, Voss and his FBI team used empathy and active listening to build trust with the robber. This approach helped calm the situation and led to a peaceful surrender. This story highlights how understanding emotions can turn dangerous situations around, and how these same skills can be used in everyday negotiations. Chapter 2. Be a Mirror: How to Quickly Establish Rapport. Chris Voss introduces a simple but powerful technique called mirroring to build quick rapport and trust during negotiations. Mirroring involves subtly repeating the last few words or key phrases the other person says. This encourages them to open up, share more information, and feel understood. It's a natural way to make the other person feel safe and in control without being aggressive. Voss shares a story about a time he negotiated with a man holding his boss hostage. By calmly mirroring the man's words, Voss got him to talk more, revealing his true feelings and motives. This helped Voss guide the conversation and eventually resolve the situation peacefully. The story shows how mirroring can break down barriers and create a connection, whether in high-stakes situations or everyday conversations. Chapter 3. Don't Feel Their Pain. Label It: How to Create Trust with Tactical Empathy. Chris Voss explains the power of labeling emotions to build trust and connection during negotiations. Instead of feeling sorry for the other person, you should recognize and name their emotions. Phrases like "it seems like" or "it sounds like" help the other person feel understood without sounding judgmental. This technique helps calm emotions and makes people more open to dialogue. Voss shares a story about a kidnapping case in the Philippines where a man was held for ransom. By labeling the kidnapper's fears and emotions, Voss's team built trust and influenced the conversation. This approach helped lower the ransom demand and safely resolve the situation. The story shows how acknowledging emotions through labeling can create trust and lead to better outcomes. Chapter 4. Beware, Yes, Master No. How to Generate Momentum and Make It Safe to Reveal the Real Stakes. Chris Voss explains that people often say yes to avoid conflict, but it doesn't always mean real agreement. Hearing no can actually be more powerful because it makes the other person feel safe and in control. When someone says no, they relax and feel less pressured, creating space for honest communication. Asking questions that invite a no response, like, "Is this a bad time to talk?" can lower defenses and lead to more productive discussions. In one negotiation example, this strategy helped uncover the real issues behind a stalled deal. By allowing the other side to say no comfortably, they shared their true concerns, which led to a better solution for both sides. This approach shows that embracing no can build trust and move negotiations forward more effectively than pushing for a yes. Chapter 5. Trigger the 2 words that immediately transform any negotiation. How to gain the permission to persuade. Chris Voss explains that the most powerful words in negotiation are, "That's right." When the other person says this, it means they feel fully understood and validated. This response shows that you've accurately recognized their feelings, thoughts, and situation. Reaching this point creates trust and opens the door for influence. To trigger these words, you must listen carefully, use tactical empathy, and summarize their perspective without judgment. Voss shares a story about negotiating with a terrorist group. By patiently reflecting the group's viewpoint and concerns, the lead negotiator finally heard, "That's right," which shifted the conversation toward cooperation. This moment of understanding allowed the negotiation to move forward effectively. Chapter 6. Bend their reality. How to shape what is fair. Chris Voss explains that in negotiations, what feels fair to one party may not feel fair to the other. By bending their reality, you can reshape what is considered fair and guide the negotiation toward a more favorable outcome. One key tactic is anchoring, where you introduce an extreme, high or low, offer to set the stage for the real negotiation. This makes any reasonable request feel more acceptable by comparison. Voss illustrates this with a story of a kidnapping case where the ransom demand was set incredibly high. By countering with a lower amount and using the principle of fairness, the negotiators adjusted the kidnapper's expectations and moved toward an agreement that was acceptable for both sides. This shows how you can influence perceptions of fairness to your advantage and achieve better results. Chapter 7. Create the illusion of control. How to calibrate questions to transform conflict into collaboration. Chris Voss explains that giving the other person a sense of control can make them more cooperative during negotiations. Instead of telling them what to do, ask calibrated questions. Open-ended questions that allow them to think and solve the problem themselves. Questions like, "How would you like to solve this?" Or, "What's the best way to move forward?" Make the other person feel empowered, which often leads to better collaboration. Voss shares an example of a hostage negotiation where asking the captors, "How do you want this to end?" allowed the negotiators to shift the power dynamics. By giving the captors control over the situation, they became more willing to cooperate and ultimately released the hostages. This strategy shows how asking the right questions can turn conflict into collaboration by making the other person feel they are in control. Chapter 8. Guarantee execution. How to spot the liars and ensure follow-through from everyone else. Chris Voss highlights the importance of ensuring that agreements made during a negotiation are actually followed through. One way to guarantee execution is by spotting lies early. Liars often exhibit certain behavioral patterns, like avoiding direct answers or offering vague responses. To detect deception, Voss suggests listening closely for inconsistencies or contradictions in what is being said. Voss shares a story from a negotiation with a business partner who initially promised a commitment but later hesitated. By asking specific, clear questions and observing body language, the truth came out, and the agreement was solidified. This shows how you can ensure follow-through by reading people carefully and holding them accountable, ultimately making the negotiation process more reliable and effective. Chapter 9. Bargain Hard. How to Get Your Price. Chris Voss explains that bargaining is not just about haggling over numbers, but about understanding the other person's needs and emotions. To get the best deal, you must be firm yet flexible, always ready to adjust your strategy based on the situation. One technique he emphasizes is using a flinch, reacting with surprise or shock when an offer is made. This response can unsettle the other person and make them reconsider their position. Voss shares a story about negotiating with a businessman over a contract. By using strategic pauses and asking for more than what was initially needed, the businessman eventually agreed to a better deal. This shows that bargaining hard isn't about being aggressive, but about using psychological tactics, staying patient, and maintaining control over the conversation to get the price you want. Chapter 10. Find the Black Swan. How to Create Breakthroughs by Revealing the Unknown Unknowns. Chris Voss explains that the most powerful breakthroughs in negotiations come from discovering hidden information. Black swans, things the other party isn't aware of or isn't sharing. These unknowns can dramatically change the course of a negotiation, so it's crucial to dig deeper and ask questions that reveal hidden motivations, fears, or desires. Voss shares a story about a complex hostage negotiation, where an unexpected piece of information, a hidden relationship between the captors, was uncovered. By learning about this, the negotiators were able to offer a solution that the captors hadn't considered, leading to a successful resolution. This illustrates how uncovering black swans can completely shift the outcome of negotiations, showing that the unknown can often be the key to success. In the final pages of Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss emphasizes that negotiation is not just about getting the best deal, but about building relationships, understanding human emotions, and guiding conversations toward win-win solutions. He reinforces the idea that every negotiation, whether in high-stakes situations or everyday life, requires patience, emotional intelligence, and the ability to see things from the other person's perspective. By using the tools and strategies outlined throughout the book, readers can transform the way they approach negotiation, moving away from traditional tactics and embracing a more effective, empathetic approach. Voss concludes by reminding us that the real art of negotiation lies in creating trust, not just closing deals. The key is to stay calm, ask the right questions, and always be prepared to adapt to the situation at hand. I'm Daniel. I hope you found these ideas useful. Don't forget to use them in your day-to-day life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.